Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mama's Podcast, where parents alive make America strong. It's my pleasure and privilege to introduce Cero today, Renaissance Man 2.0, here to talk about some stuff to help us with our children. Thank you so much for coming on, Cero.
Thanks, Andrea. Let's do this.
Let's do. So we were talking before we hopped on the call a little bit about cell phones and how that leads to some health issues. Maybe we just hop on there and see where it leads.
Absolutely. You can try to understand your kids all you want. Try to be a specialist. You could try to be the pediatrician for them.
Oh,
You could try to be their psychologist.
yeah, I don't know.
You could try to be their teacher. But it's far easier to just guide them and look for telltale signs. Look for feedback from them.
Mhm.
Because if you want to be a specialist, a pediatrician, and a psychologist, and a nutritionist, it's too much time to specialize in each one of those. And our kids grow up pretty dang fast.
Yeah.
You don't have time. You don't have time. So what do? You look for signs. And one of the biggest signs, screens, phone use, computer use, TV.
Now,
How
when you-
frequently do your kids want to run to those screens?
Thank you. How would you help parents recognize that often, like the frequency of that, especially in a world where most kids are highly exposed to screens of all sorts? How would you help them recognize the want for that, like the frequency, the want for that? Does that make sense the way I'm framing that?
It does. Let's preface it with the less a child's needs are being met, the more they're going to want the screen.
Oh, I see.
What am I saying?
Yeah.
We're talking about fundamental needs here. We're not talking about the child wanting a different flavor of bubblegum. Basic fundamental needs like quality water, quality air, quality food. Absolute basics. We're not even saying roof over the head. We're just saying eat, sleep, breathe, drink. I'm not even including sleep, to be honest. You got to eat. You can try to go without food for a long time. You really can. Your body can really last a long time until finally it doesn't. And with air, try holding your breath. You can't live that long. Water on a hot day. Let's say you go without water for a week, 100-degree temperature weather. You can't. So basic fundamental needs for a kid. When they're not being met, they're going to go to the phone. Why though? Why am I connecting these two? Why am I associating them so much?
Yeah.
With very deep basic needs for kids? If you're not eating well and you wake up protein deprived, amino acid deprived, right? Fat deprived, cholesterol deprived, you're going to look for the first dopamine rush you can get.
Well,
it doesn't matter what it is. Could be a bowl of cereal.
1 day a week.
Could be something at school when your kid gets dropped off at school and gossip. Gossip is great. Gossip is dopamine. So whatever it takes,
You must have at least
that quick
30
rush.
days in
We
the
all
bank.
know what's the problem with
Yeah,
quick rushes.
so
They're
start
free,
taking them.
Yeah.
and they essentially drain you. They rob you of your soul eventually. Well, what does it mean when the kid keeps wanting to go to the screen? Their dietary needs are not being met severely, not like a little bit.
Sure.
Severe issue here. And it is also safe to assume that if they need to be in front of a screen every day, that there's probably an autoimmune disorder brewing in there, if there already isn't one there.
Mhm.
No kid wakes up saying, I want my screen. Nobody, no
Okay.
sane person
Good
says
to
that,
know.
kid or adult.
We know that guy.
I need to wake up and see my screen in the morning. Nobody actually says I need it. But the way we act like it, it's as if we don't have our screen, we're going to die.
Yes.
That's kind of what it's like with kids.
Yes, and you're talking to a point that I've seen so often where the child, I've seen parents like this. The child is tantruming because they don't have the phone right now, And so the parent is like frantically handing them the phone. And we're talking, 5 years old, 6-year-old kids. These same kids that I've done tours of schools where I walk through a school and just I have an interest. And when I had my kids in the school system, I also would tour schools before I put them in. But I always looked at the kids' faces. They would have these circles. They'd like 95% of the kids would have these circles right here, right? Nobody seems to notice those. It just kills me. And they would line up and they would be in this line like they had to get in this line. Nobody was excited. And that spark that you see in a kid's eyes, that happiness, that spark, it's gone. And I'm like, what is wrong here? Like, no way am I putting my child here. No way, no way. But that same thing you're talking about with the screens, I see that. I see that in the grocery store when I go with my kids to go get groceries, right? I see that with other families. Yeah. So tell us about that. Tell us about that.
Well, when I tell people like I moved to Baja not because I wanted to, but because I had to for myself and for my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
People go, oh, but that was a luxury. That's a privilege of yours. And that's when I know that they've never actually stepped out of their immediate environment. We're not talking about vacations in Cancun and Cabo. We're talking about really stepping out of your environment. Cancun and Cabo is not a vacation. You're still in America.
Yep.
Those are American-created cities abroad with American lifestyle behaviors and American choices. There's actually nothing Mexican about it. And so they will come back home and they'll think, I just went on an awesome vacation with my family. Why do we feel worse? Because you didn't actually take a vacation. It was borrowed time.
Right.
Why would you need to take a vacation? Why do your kids need a vacation? That's a good question, because kids aren't supposed to need a vacation. It's common for us to hear an adult or a parent say, oh, I need a vacation. But kids aren't supposed to say that. Kids have adult problems now.
They
because
do.
The adults are not handling their problems.
Yes, and add a layer.
So I'm not the adults. Yeah.
And to add a layer.
I don't want to change the adults.
You go.
And it's difficult for people to hear this because they'll immediately think, oh, he's shaming me. I don't want to hear this. It's like, no, let's dive into it. Let's dive into the problem.
Yeah.
Because as much as the problem is severe, you're the one that has the solution to it. You may not see it in front of you, but you actually have the solution. It's God-given. I'm not saying I'm a Christian or Catholic, I'm just saying somebody gave us everything that we need. And for us to think that it's not enough, who the hell are we?
Yeah.
What the audacity we have to say that the sun is harmful for us. The audacity to say getting your feet in the sand and jumping into salt water must be washed off immediately afterwards.
Silly.
Who are we to think we know better? We don't. There's a reason why traditions have existed for millennia, because they solved problems we no longer need to face. There's that Pink Floyd song, you can't have your pudding if you haven't had your meat. Pink Floyd song, Brick in the Wall. You can't have your pudding. No, why? I know it's a joke, but it goes back to a tradition. If you have refined carbohydrates, you have a tummy ache. Kids that have had ice cream before they have dinner, or that's the first thing they ate all day, they have a tummy ache.
Yep.
You eat cereal, that's the first thing you had, you're going to have a tummy ache, right? So there's a reason why we say that. That's why the tradition exists. Kids used to die from things like this. They don't anymore because we follow tradition. And now we don't follow those traditions anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes back to the parent. And this is why parents don't like to talk about it, because they go, wait, do I have to do something about this?
Yeah.
I don't know. If you're okay with your child on the screen, no. You don't have to. And I'm being sincere with that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're okay with that, that's okay. I'm not going to force you to do better. I don't know what other lives parents have had. I don't know what struggles they've been through. I don't know how far they have to come to even get to the point where they can afford cereal. But last I checked, if you can't provide a healthy lifestyle for your kids in the United States of America, the greatest country on the face of this earth,
Yeah, thank you.
you're
That's
the
great.
problem. So I'm not here to shame, but I'm just going to say it for what it is. If you can't keep your child healthy in the US of A, you can't keep them healthy anywhere. You are the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you want to do about that? You want to just continue with the status quo, knowing
Oh,
it's
yeah,
a problem.
yeah.
That's okay.
Yep.
Not if you're a parent. You relinquished the right to be ignorant in your own old ways once you became a parent. You could have stayed ignorant. It's okay that you became a parent. You're now accountable for the results. And as a dad, you're 100% accountable for the outcome, irrespective of what mom has done or not done.
Yeah.
You're accountable.
Yeah, so don't put yourself.
You're the leader.
But that's great.
She's the neck of the family. You're the head of the family.
That's really
The
good.
neck has no way of knowing where to look if the head is not thinking clearly.
So.
And then the neck tries to be the head. That doesn't work well either. So it goes back to gender roles all of a sudden. Respecting the gender roles, right? And it also goes back to one other thing. Let's take the phones away. Let's take the public school food away. Let's take the 9-to-5 schedule of parents away.
No, I think at some point.
Let's put them back when we were in agrarian lifestyles, which was a very, very rough lifestyle. Yet for some reason that roughness benefited us. What am I talking about? Put a man and a woman in nature. Any nature setting. Watch what they do. They revert to their innate gender roles. The man knows, I got to start collecting wood. We need a fire. The woman realizes there's going to be a fire soon. I need to forage.
So
I need to look
did I
for it.
mention that
They don't
there's
discuss
a
this.
how we call
They just do it. It's when they don't respect their gender roles, when they don't stick to what they're great at, innately great at. That's when we see the breakdown. So you have your fire going, but there's no food collected. And now it's too late. It's evening. You can't see anything. You don't have a flashlight. You don't have a cell phone light. So suddenly respecting the gender roles and understanding gender roles becomes very important as a parent. A phone,
the experience
diet,
that I've had so far.
Patient. parenting, they're all connected. And to think that they're not is a telltale sign of how powerful someone's trauma is.
Yes, I think, yes. And I think leading the conversation a little bit, I think that's a profound statement you just made, because when we turn the camera lens over to the American public on a whole, how many of them struggle to understand what you just said, and how it isn't separate and it isn't boxes, and that it's that all those things are connected, right? Somebody recently made, it was a humorous joke, a gender joke, and there were so many ways I could take it because I'm comfortable in myself, and so I could play with it. But I decided to be a little bit smarty and add value to the post. And I got on the post and I just said, men are givers and women are nurturers. And when we understand that, there's this beautiful synergy. And of course, somebody said, well, what do you mean by that, right? And but it's that same thing you're talking about, head, neck. It's understanding how the cycle of energy works between the masculine and the feminine. And when that's in balance, what we're able to actually notice and be conscious of and aware of in the present with our children, right? I've seen children freaking out right there at their parents' feet, and the parent not really checking, like not noticing that, right? But when you've dealt with your trauma, whatever that trauma is, that's keeping you from being in the present moment, you can't help but notice your child, right? It becomes easy.
I agree.
It's like it becomes easy. It's like education. We're taught to think that education is so difficult. I home educate 3 kiddos, and they absolutely amaze me all the time. I'm sure most people think that I'm sitting here pounding in, 6-8 hours a day with my kids, and I'm like, nah. The human and you can correct me because you're a scientist here. You're the scientist here on this call, but based on the stuff that I've studied, the human brain operates at optimum function at about 40 to 60 minutes at a time before it needs a break. Now, if you start looking at the neurological functioning of small children and adapt for that, 6 and 9, 6 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hour school days with the school food that you're talking about, and now how we're incorporating screens even in the classroom. And then we will keep adding layers here for a second to help people understand what our children are dealing with. Not only do we now have the screens, okay, we have the dopamine hits that you were talking about earlier in the call from the screens, right? That need. In addition to that, we have blue light from the screens, which disrupts our circadian rhythms, right? Then we have all of that going on. Plus, we have the disruption in their lifestyle. Then we have the school food lunches, which we haven't even got to that yet, but we have that, right? And then if we keep adding, realize that we've politicized our school curriculum, and we've brought in adult content and adult ideologies into our school system. Now, I'm speaking real frankly as a parent. I'm not a parent who says, "Oh no, my children can't do that. It's too risky." You mitigate risk because you want to build resilience, but you don't dump adult issues on a whole bunch of children in a classroom where a teacher is expected to provide for these children for anywhere from 5 to 8 hours, 7 hours a day. And they might have 1 to 2 teacher aides for anywhere from 19 to 30 kids. All of those basic needs you're talking about, where are they? Where are they actually being addressed in that mix, right? I know I just built an impossible scenario, but that's what we're seeing.
Oh, yes. So if I was a parent right now, hearing what you said, I would be like, what's the point of me even trying? Seriously, why should I try? How am I going to stop all this? Air pollution, contaminated water, contaminated food supply, plastics, blue light from screens in classrooms, like waking them up too early, putting them into an indoor place for most of the day, not respecting the circadian rhythm. Like, honestly, if I was hearing this, if I wasn't a parent yet, I would actually opt out of being a parent. Because you're not going to see the love part, right? You don't realize how awesome it is to be a parent. Oh, it's only after you become one. You don't know what it's like to leave the Matrix until you've actually left it, right? It's like trying to describe the movie The Matrix to somebody. You can't describe it. You have to watch the movie, and then you have to actually watch what it's like to be outside of the Matrix, to even know what it could look like, it would feel like. You can't feel like it. You can't get a taste of it. You can't be like, well, let me see if I want to be a parent. Let me just get a little taste of this. There is nothing that even comes remotely close to it, because it's the full activation of who you are, the full genetic expression of who you are. You've never had full genetic expression of who you are, ever, until you became a parent. So, where am I going with that? This is why, instead of trying to curb everything, instead of trying to protect your kids, and I say protect with air quotes, because there's no such thing as protection. There's a guarantee. And I know that I'm going to get grilled for this. Parenting is so damn easy. It's not parenting that's hard. Parenting is so easy. You know what's ridiculously hard? Harder than anything else that I've ever done on the face of this earth? Facing myself.
Boom, thank you. I was like, please say it. That's exactly right. Everybody says parenting is so hard. It's parenting that. Actually, it's that when you have a child, they are the most accurate, amazing mirrors on the planet. And they make you have to look at
helpful.
You. Yeah, they're incredibly helpful.
We hire, okay, listen. I have clients dishing out real money per month for me to help them. I'm not a guru of any kind. I'm not a wise man on top of a mountain. No, I'm not Sadhguru. I'm not the Dalai Lama, right? And even them, I question the hell out of them. So this is just wisdom that was passed on to me from the thousands of grandfathers and fathers and uncles that came before me that was fortunately ingrained into the genetics by all the grandmothers and mothers and aunts that came from before me. This is not me. I didn't come up with any of this. All right. I'm not saying parenting is easy and I'm the exception. No. This was normal at one point. This was not crazy talk. This was not an exception. Because we had grandfathers, grandmothers, we had those guides.
Yes.
Kids don't really want to listen to their parents, but they sure as heck listen to grandpa and grandma.
Yep. Or aunties and uncles.
We
You have that
also have-
extended. Mhm.
And with the aunt and uncle. Uncle is like the cool, way older brother that you wish you had. Aunt is like the cool, way older sister you wish you had, right? And they kind of get you ready for the real world in a way that your parents really aren't. Your parents are just incubating you. They're providing you with an incubation center, but it's really all the other specialists in your family that come in and provide that guidance, right? Okay. When I do hear a parent saying, "Oh man, it's so hard to be a parent," it's like the most painfully obvious way of admitting, I know I have real problems. I really don't want to deal with them.
Yeah.
Becoming a parent makes you realize you have real problems. So I understand. Some people, they seriously didn't realize it. Most people don't realize it. Wait, I have very real problems. Like, these aren't like I go to a therapist and my problems are gone. I may need therapy for life. I may not be able to find a therapist that works well enough for me so that I don't need this kind of maintenance, mental, spiritual, emotional maintenance. The woo-woo stuff that men don't like to pay attention to. But if you don't pay attention to it, who is? So you become a parent, you find out you've got some pretty serious problems. You didn't know that they existed before.
Yeah.
When you don't take accountability for them, you're literally continuing the cycle.
Yes.
Your
Yes.
kids by age 5 will do the exact same thing you have done.
Yep.
And if you don't change by the time they're 18, because change takes double the time.
Yep.
Once they see you and they see you're not really fixed up, they see you've got some loose ends, it takes double the time for them to regain respect for you.
Yep.
So your first 5 years, you didn't get it right. You need to do the next 10 years right. That's a lot more work. Let me get this straight. 5 years to start a really good business, a life business of another child, versus 10 years, or I should say 10 more years. So really, you don't see an ROI until 15 years later. Who's going to go into business with you? No one would go to business with you. No one would want to open that life business LLC. If they're like, wait, we're not going to see a profit for 15 years?
Right.
I don't know about this. Maybe this isn't the best way to go forward here. Maybe there's a way we could do it a third of the time. There is. You find out you're messed up. If your kids see you getting genuine help, if your kids see you genuinely putting in the effort, it doesn't matter if you can't get the six-pack yet. They need to see you striving for it.
Yep.
They need to see you trying to get a six-pack on your body, six-pack in your mind, six-pack in your heart, so that you can finally connect all of it. That's what they need to see. Later on, maybe it takes you 15 years to get a six-pack body. You kept messing up. They need to see you're really genuinely trying. I don't see that in most parents.
Mm-mm.
I see intent. I don't see action.
Right.
And I'm sorry, but because you did your best doesn't mean your best was enough. That's the part parents think they're being shamed at. If you can't handle that, how are you even alive? You're alive because a lot of people made our lives easy. Because if you can't self-evaluate even a little bit. If somebody tells you you have a very real problem and you're not going to do anything about it, if we were living in a society where you are relied on and we rely on you, you rely on me, I can't rely on you, you're out.
Yes, that's
You're not
yes.
out of my group. You're out of the tribe. You are not going to have anything left anymore. You are completely on your own. You've been exiled. We don't exile people anymore.
Nope.
Maybe we should.
It
Maybe we should.
changes everything, Saro. I grew up really isolated on a mountain, and our family definitely had some huge bumps in it. Like we're talking 7,000 feet up, nearest neighbor 37 miles away, snowed in 8 to 9 months out of the year. So, and we were about half subsistence living. So it's like we literally relied on one another for our safety, for getting through the winter, for all that stuff. So it really didn't matter how mad you were with someone if they said, okay, I'm going to the spring to haul water. Didn't matter how mad you were, you figured out how to go to the spring and haul water with them. Or hey, I got my elk down in a hole, we've got to get meat for the family. Doesn't matter how upset you are, you go help out. In other words, that thing that you're talking about, that reliance had to be there. Otherwise, what happens?
Yes, exactly.
No safety net.
And now we can do that. Now we're allowed to do that. We're allowed to not be accountable for what people rely on us for. It's okay. You actually can just get up and leave. You can go to another state. You live in an expensive area in Los Angeles, you can get up and leave and go to Utah. You can completely start anew, and you will never be held accountable. You can continue in your old ways. Just go to another state. Hell, leave the country. The number of expats that I see here that I can tell have left because they're escaping. They're escaping their American societal selves. It's shocking. And the amount that have moved to, let's say, Cabo. Cabo's not Mexico. There's nothing Mexican about it except the name. Heck, the airport was basically built by Americans there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're in their gated communities. They're in hell. They thought they escaped. And really, what they were escaping was this.
But you can't escape that.
And now they're in prison because you escape America because you want a better life, because you kind of finally wake up to what's really happening. Like the great times of America may not be coming again. Maybe that really was in the past. I'm really uncertain what's futures looks bright, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be a lot of suffering coming the next 10, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some rebuilding, some restoration, right? So I'll see them coming down here, especially ones with money. And their vacation homes turn into their permanent homes. And these problems that we're talking about all come to the surface suddenly. Because you don't have somebody to point the finger at anymore.
Yep.
A very small community. And for the most part, you do kind of rely on one another. You do need play dates with other kids, other families. You don't have 40 kids in your classroom. You don't have 30 kids in your classroom. You don't even have 20 kids in your classroom. You're getting very personal with the parents. They don't do play dates. The ones that do, they did the real work, inner work before they came here. Or it was coming here that they realized, man, I'm so messed up. I raised my kids so wrong. And I'm only seeing it through my nanny, my Mexican nanny, and how happy of a mother she is. And I see her bringing her kids to my house to help mommy clean up my house. And you see it in their faces. You're like, how are you happier than I am? You're cleaning my house. Why are you happier than me? This bothers me. This bothers me not because you're happy, but because I'm not.
Right.
Why is your child happier than mine? Your child is cleaning my child's room. This doesn't make any sense. And it's not one of those stories of, oh, they live in poverty and, oh, they're just happy with what they have. No, they live a good life.
Mm-hmm.
They eat fish every day, clean fish. They don't have to worry about mercury contamination in their fish. They're living very good lives. They're on the beach every day. Sign me up. And so the average American sees that and they think, oh, that's the life I can get. It's cheaper here too, higher quality life. And they're in hell.
Because they forgot
Because
the
they're in
old
the prison
ways.
of their own mind. Yes, the American society is no longer here. That environment is no longer here to normalize your behavior, to normalize dysfunction. It's no longer here to do that for you, to give you a pat on the back. Hey, it's okay if you're dysfunctional. Seriously, it's okay. You don't need to be accountable for it. And then you come here. Wait, people don't live dysfunctionally here? Wait, dysfunction is not normal? I don't have a lot of Americans around me exhibiting their dysfunction. Maybe I'm not normal. For the first time, you think you're not normal. That's a big shock for an adult. Big shock. And to address everything, water quality, soil quality, air quality, quality of medicine, quality of education, all of those suddenly at once, that can lead a man to commit suicide. That could lead a mom to commit suicide. That could lead to a divorce because the shock of the truth is just too much.
Saro, you're helping me
This
with
is why-
something.
Well, this is why I'm not shaming parents, because they don't know. Only after it's all shown to them, they go, my God, what have I done with my life? Like, I want to die. We're talking about 40-year-olds here. We're not talking about 60-year-olds that are retired and are like, woe is me. I regret my life. I only work for money. No. We're talking about young people here.
No,
I have a client that's 20, like, I have a 25-year-old client. What's going on here? This is not young, this is not old problems. This is not midlife crisis problems. Midlife crisis is now happening in 20s, 30s. I see it here. It's very ugly. But here's the beauty of it. Once you're in hell, thank God. Because now the exit is towards heaven. And that's what Mexico shows you. I'm not saying this is just Mexico, by the way. That's what being around families that respect tradition, that respect gender roles, in fact, value them as if it's godlike almost. That's what happens when you're around people like that.
I think what you're describing is so beautiful, and it helps me put into context something that I've been wrestling with, and I just didn't realize. So it's like a blind spot for me. I struggle with how are you struggling, like the people in front of me, how are you not seeing this? And what I'm realizing is that I went not from Mexico, but I went from a mountaintop into this with my eyes open. Does that make sense? And it makes it harder to understand. How can you not see this? Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, and this is why I don't do this anymore. I may have this offering later on again. This is why I don't take on people's kids anymore.
What was that?
People's kids and their
Sato, you're fading out a little. In fact, you've frozen.
The nearest safe place is 5 kilometers away. Okay. Now, I'm a pretty damn fast runner. You try to run away, I'm catching up to you. Okay. I don't tell these kids I used to run 100-mile ultra marathons. I don't tell these kids I used to compete in triathlons. I let them think that I'm stupid. That I let them think that I'm dumber than their parents. I let them feel like, well, my parents just sent here, I'm going to go right back anyways. I let them do all of that. Guess what happens the first night? Cry, 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 and cry, and cry, and cry. The toughest of kids, the ones who say, F you to my face. Now, they are the ones that cry the hardest. I stopped doing it because I was starting to actually feel their pain. And I was like, this is too much. I thought this was maybe I'm not strong enough. No. I was actually feeling the pain of their parents through them. And it was too much.
Yeah.
I was seeing the rape that their parents had gone through. I was seeing the sexual abuse. I was seeing the absence of their father and mother. I was seeing the wealthy dad that they had that didn't pay any attention to them. I'm seeing it through their kid now. I'm seeing generations of their trauma all at once. That's actually not why I really stopped. I stopped because I realized I was actually harming these kids. By taking them on as a client, I was basically telling them,
Your parent's not good enough.
your parents aren't good enough for you. Just saying that makes me feel so fucking wrong. I just realized I caused that. Forgive me. I realized that maybe I have to edit it out. And so I stopped it. But there was a very deep lesson there. With what you said too, coming down the mountain. Why don't people see this? You're constantly surrounded by that stimulus. You cannot see it. You're not supposed to see it. It's like having your eyes taped open and there's a light shining in it 24/7. You don't know what darkness looks like. You do know, you personally, you know what darkness is.
Mhm. A little too intimately. Okay, so Saro, you are freezing up a little on me over here.
So, oh, you're back.
Yeah, and it's recording.
Okie dokie, good enough. So, back to the point that you were mentioning. Yeah, the take-home lesson here was darkness is absolutely necessary for a child. And I use the example from the movie 300, where they used to send the kids out, teenage kids, out into the wilderness, and it's like, you're not coming back. Come back after you've hunted. Come back after you're old enough, basically. You don't make it, you don't make it. It is what it is. Now, that's the extreme, but there's a lesson to be learned there. Let's go to something that's less extreme. There's a movie called Captain Fantastic with Viggo Mortensen, where he has taken his entire family, all the kids, to live in the wilderness. I believe it's after the wife passes away or something happens to mom, and he takes all the kids to the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
And his eldest son, the movie opens with his eldest son hunting a deer with a knife, not a gun, not bow and arrow, knife.
Mm-hmm.
And after the son kills the deer humanely, with as painlessly as possible, dad comes up, cuts out the heart, gives it to the son. He doesn't say, like, son, I'm proud of you. Son, now you're a man. He's acting like the messenger. Like, you have now completed your rite of passage. Who am I to tell you you're a man? You already completed it. That alone was indicative that you are deserving to be referred to as a man. Who am I to judge you to say you are or aren't a man? That was his approach to it, right? The rite of passage was dark. The hours and hours of practice with twigs, to stab one another, to try to stab an animal, right? To know how to quickly but quietly approach an animal so that you can predate on them. I don't know how many hours of practice that child would have to go through. How many hours of failing? You could say failure is darkness, right? How many hours he felt dark, like, I'm a loser. I can't do this. I keep practicing. I can't even catch a squirrel. How the heck am I going to catch a deer that has much better senses that a squirrel does, and then eating the heart of that deer.
Yep. And then doing it.
Now it's easy, isn't it? Now it's easy.
Mhm.
Same with parenting. If you don't go through your darkness alone, if you don't go through your rite of passage alone, you cannot appreciate the light. You will remain in the darkness. And that's why it's so shocking to some people. Like, how could you continue being a parent like that? Why are you like that? They forgot how horrible the dark felt. They have forgotten how horrible hell felt. Your mind is very, very good at blacking out severely traumatic events. Those events are seriously powerful because, like you said, they're a mirror into who you are, how you really work.
Yep.
Sucks to bring them up because it's very painful. Suddenly that pain becomes your friend, your guide, your confidant. That pain interprets that experience for you.
I always,
Suddenly your past is not that terrible anymore.
that
Now
one.
you want to use your past. You want to use your pain to figure that out, right? And that's what taking these kids completely out of their environment to the mountaintop, the reverse of what you were doing, going from the mountain down to the city, reverse, city up to the mountain, was working very, very well. Now, how do you do that in the USA?
Yeah.
How do you do that when both parents are working? How do you do that when weekends are for recovery? How do you do that when you don't have money for daycare? You don't have $3,000 a month to dish out, where you have to use the public school system as a free form of daycare, because that is what it is. Let's just be honest about it. We just send our kids to public school because it's daycare. Or else, if we could teach our own kids, we would love to. Or if we could send our kids to private school, we would love to. Nobody sends their kids to public school because they just love the quality of the public school. It's free daycare.
And they,
I'm not talking about the outlier exceptions here.
good. And the other thing I see is that there's a lack of questioning in the mainstream public. And I say that because when I became a parent, it was automatically assumed that when my little one was 3 months to 6 months old, I would just go back to work. And I remember being offended by that. Nobody asked me what I wanted. Nobody asked me, anything. They just assumed that I would shuffle my child off to some daycare center and go back to work. And I was like, no, because that's not me. No, that's not what I'm doing. But the whole point for the story is that people have become so conditioned to, okay, you have to go through this as a new mother. You have to give your child up to daycare and you have to go back to work. And they don't stop to think, what if a couple of us families got together and together pooled our sources and got a little piece of land and farmed it, and the moms got to take care of the kids and the men got to be the breadwinners? What if we did that? They don't even think to question, is the point I'm making.
Would you agree it's because there's no sense of urgency? And when you haven't seen hell, you don't have a sense of urgency to make sure you never get back to hell. And that's
Yes.
what the rite of passage. The rite of passage literally goes through hell. And so when you've done that, we really value the light. The sense of urgency is always going to be there. You're never, ever going to let that up. And it's not going to take energy away from you. In fact, it'll create energy for you. Every time you're like, whoa, hold on. No. We're going to the dark again. Let's get back to the light. It actually becomes a form of self-validation. Like, I have done the right thing. That self-work was the right decision. That hell I went through, that I would have gone through had I known how painful it was going to be, was so worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It gives meaning and purpose to it. Right? So the sense of urgency is not going to be there because most parents haven't been through hell. They think they've been through hell. They think the 9 to 5 and recovery on the weekend is hell. No. It's purgatory. You're in between. You're not actually here. You're not really all the way in the deep barrels of hell yet, but you're also not on your way to heaven. You're just there. You're floating. That's also why there's no sense of urgency. That's also why they just accept the status quo. They honestly don't know where they are in life. Ask the average parent, who are you? And they'll refer to titles.
Yeah.
I'm a dad. I'm a brother. I'm an engineer. No, who are you? I came from Scotland. I came from, no. Who are you? What do you mean? They start to kind of panic inside, and you could see it in their eyes too. They seriously don't know. And I've also understood that approach doesn't work. It scares people so damn much. Light is so scary to people. I know this sounds weird. Good energy is very scary to people because they see it as a threat, as the enemy.
Mhm.
That's how used they are to the dark.
Yes.
You get so used to evil, you get so used to dark that you actually start to think it's good. But when good does come along, when light does come along, you go, that's a threat. That's a risk. Like an autoimmune disorder. Start attacking yourself. Except you're not doing it from within, you're doing it from outside. So you have an autoimmune disorder from your diet, the shots, from not breastfeeding, and then you have a mental emotional autoimmune disorder. Checkmate. They have you exactly where they want you.
Yep.
This is also more likely to lead to divorce. 2 single-family households make more money. Or I shouldn't say make more money, consume more.
These
Why
guys
sell
up
one
here
bed
make
when you
more
could
money.
sell 2 beds? Correct. Why sell one mattress when you could sell 2? Why allow you to buy a house when we can have you renting 2 homes? Why have you buy 1 car when we can force you to buy 2? Right? So that's the idea. Let's make sure that you don't. And the state of California is the epitome of this. So what do? Do you just keep talking about the problems all day long? Like, what is the way forward? The average parent. Let's take both examples of average parent. One is the one in the metropolitan cities like LA, New York, San Francisco. And the other is a little more small town areas, Utah, Wyoming, Kansas. Both of these apply the same solution. The one in the city, the moment you leave the city, an hour, you're already in nature. California, you go 1 hour out, you're in nature. You're already in a state park. Actually, Angeles Crest Forest surrounds all of northern LA. San Francisco, most people have no idea. You go north of the Golden Gate Bridge, it's a freaking forest, an actual forest. Don't tell me you cannot take the bus to get there. Don't tell me you cannot hop in the car 5 a.m. in the morning to beat Saturday traffic to get there. Don't tell me. I don't want to hear it. Everybody can do this, even if you work 7 days a week. And yes, I did used to work 7 days a week. And yes, I still had time for this. You don't live in a metropolitan city. You're surrounded by nature.
Yep.
You're surrounded by it. Take a rucksack, take a sleeping bag, take a phone, go alone. Go on a Friday night, just go sleep alone in the woods. See how you fare. See how you feel. Take enough warm clothing with you. Like I said, that phone. Make sure you have a reception, just in case. Let the local park ranger know, hey, I'm sleeping here. It's my first time. I'm an amateur. You'd be surprised how much people are willing to help you when they see you're putting forward your best foot.
Yep.
You're actually attempting it. Okay? No one's going to want to do that. So I know we would love to have a gold standard solution, a silver bullet here that we can provide to parents. This is what you could do if you live in a metropolitan city. This is what you could do if you live outside of one. There isn't one. You need to leave it completely. I hate admitting this too. You need to leave that environment for such a long period of time that it costs just too much money. The center I know that's in Montana per month, is $12,000. Which parent can afford $12,000 for 6 months per month?
Mhm.
Let's be very real about that. Not the average parent.
Correct.
Okay. I can scrape that money together if I had to do it for a whole year for my daughter. The average parent can't do that. Period. Full stop. End of story. Medicare is not going to cover that, okay? Because it'll actually cure the kid.
That's exactly it.
So, but you don't have coverage. You don't have a sponsor to do that. Guess how much it costs here in Mexico to do this per kid per month? $200.
Oof.
$200 measly dollars per month. To guarantee that your child comes back and puts you, mom and dad, in your place. Your child starts to act like the parent, like a thought leader, because they didn't have a screen. They only had books, roof over their head, which is basically a shack made of wood, not even on a concrete slab. You have enough firewood, but you need to cut it up, and you need to cure it. You need to know how to cure it. You need to know how to store it. The worst thing you could deal with in terms of predators are coyotes. Coyotes here are small. Okay? There are no seriously poisonous snakes. There's seriously very little risks here. And that's also why it's a very good place. So it's cost-wise, it's low. Risk-wise, very low risk. Get the job done. There's no air pollution to worry about. There's no rush hour traffic to be thinking about. There's no weird transients and weird drug addicts, and no, none of that. Not a single gun in sight.
Full detox.
It's you and the elements, and not a single American. That's the important part. You need to be 100% detached from the environment. You cannot have any signs, any symbols, any resemblance of the American society in your immediate environment when you're doing this.
Tell me why.
Let's say, let's use EMF fields. You have a Wi-Fi router. Let's say you're an ant. You need to get as far away from this Wi-Fi router. It's one thing to walk away from a Wi-Fi router for 20 feet. All right, you walked away. 50 feet, you're definitely far enough from its effects, right? It's EMF field. You're an ant. You can't walk that fast. You can't just go over any terrain. You actually have to crawl over all of it. You can't climb stairs. You have to walk every single bit of that surface area, every nook and cranny. It can take you hours to get away from it. By the time, as an ant, you've gotten away from that Wi-Fi router, it's already nighttime. By the time you got just 30 feet away, not even 50, 30 feet away, it's time to get back to the nest. The predators are out. It's not practical. It's not financially viable. You cannot take care of a family doing that. Every single time you need to reset yourself and come back. You can't. You can't reset yourself. Imagine you're an ant and you have to walk 10 miles to get to the gym. You could drive 10 miles easy, can't you? Now imagine you have to walk as an ant. Now imagine you have to get to the gym with your legs tied. You have to hop to the gym. Oh, and hands tied. Let's make that extra fun. Oh, you know what? Let's really up the ante even more. You're freaking blind. Hands tied, legs tied. Let's see you get to that gym. Doesn't work. That's how powerful American society has become. You must leave its field of influence, 100%. And this is why when they come here, even your clothes, I screen your clothes. If I see any American brands, any insignia of any kind, it's out. You cannot have any reminders, any symbolism of any kind of what American lifestyle is. that is actual detachment. So that's what I say when I say detaching from the environment. It's full detachment. They don't need to stay here for months. We're talking about 3 months max. That's ironically also how long it takes to internalize a habit, to where you don't need to think about it anymore. It's just a habit. It's just it's a sixth sense now. It's just instinctual.
Yes, but one of the
Here,
things
3 months.
I hear you hear coming across and what you're saying with that is that so understanding neurology the way that I do, when you take away, especially when you're dealing with trauma, right? We've touched on this. When you take away all reminders of that trauma other than literally the self, because you can't take that away, that makes it so that the person has the room to deal with the self. But in addition to that, you've cleaned the entire environment of any reminder of that trauma, which allows a human psyche, to begin to feel what it's like to not live with that trauma all the time. And once you get a taste of that, wow, that your life changes, right?
Yes, yes, yeah. And that's why the first night they cannot have any access. It has to be that way, because the body realizes what's happening. The mind realizes what's happening, and they're like, oh no, we need to get out of this immediately. Like, what have we got ourselves into?
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be really, 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 really bad, right? And then after week 2, it doesn't even really take that long, but just to make sure, after week 2, they don't want to go back home.
It feels good.
And that actually becomes a problem. That becomes a problem for the parent, because they're like, but don't you want, like, what do you mean you don't want to come back home? Home is here. This was not a permanent solution. And the kid, this is every single one, Andrea. I'm surprised at this. I really thought maybe 1, 2 kids. Okay, maybe a few are like, wow, I really love it here. I want to stay. No, it's all of them.
Yeah.
Even my daughter. And my daughter loves La Jolla, San Diego. I don't know if you've had a chance to visit. It's a beautiful beach town. There's a playground right next to the sand, right next to the beach,
Mm-hmm.
with a nice barbecue grass area. I mean, I could spend every single day of my life at La Jolla Shores Park. As much as she loves that area, she goes, no, this is where I want a vacation home. I don't want to live here. I didn't influence that, Andrea. You may say I have. Maybe I didn't force feed her to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
So that was also a shock to me, that she's choosing to stay here too. So it's not shocking anymore to hear this, that all the kids, when they come here, they want to stay here. Starting a homeschooling program here. I'm starting a school here. This was not in the cards. I didn't plan on doing this. But the expat families here, where money is not an object for them, I didn't know they were looking for the same thing. I had no idea.
Why not?
And they're like, that's what I'm starting to think about. And the first question for them was, can you dedicate yourself to this 100%? And my first question is, well, how would I pay bills years from now? I've got money. I could not make money for quite a long time. Then what? What if my cancer or tumors come back?
Mm-hmm.
Stem cell clinics don't take credit card. They take cold, hard American dollars. They don't even take pesos. They take dollars.
Mm-hmm.
The ones in Mexico, the ones that saved my life. I know how expensive they can be. And when your cancer or tumors come back, it's always more aggressive. So chances are I'd probably spend twice more, maybe 3 times as more. That was my first question. I'm going to invest energy into this. Money's energy. How are we going to ensure the current keeps flowing? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where I'm getting my energy. All my sources of energy are intact, and the channels are open, and I'm working on them actively. So if I fully focus on this, it's going to happen to me. And that's why I turn it around on the parents, the wealthy parents, the ones here abroad. not just the ones nearby here, just across all of the world that are
Mhm.
now living outside of the US, trying to raise their kids with American values, American traditions, reminding them of the American shoulders that they stand on.
Mhm.
That the fact that we can have these abroad privileges is because of America.
Mhm.
We didn't want to leave America. We have to escape, and we're going to come back and take it. There are a lot of those Americans.
Good.
And I'm finding that you only need a handful of them. It only takes 6 to make it financially viable.
Good.
So that's what we're doing. And the only question I have left that I cannot answer is, will it be too late? I raise a bunch of kids, and it's funny, I just said I raise a bunch of kids as if I'm their parents, but that's really how it feels. I mean, you're going deep into the heart to heart, so I might as
Yeah.
well be part of their family. I don't know if it'll be too late by then. This is not doom and gloom talk. This is just being as
Real.
realistic as possible. I don't know if we have 10 years. And that's the thing that I contend with. Well, what is the best way forward here to turn the tide back in our country? I'm not here to sell hats and make you feel better. That's not the impact I'm here for. I didn't get the privilege of working at NASA without any degrees. I didn't get the privilege of starting a physical therapy clinic without being a physical therapist. I didn't get these privileges out of nowhere. I didn't survive my near-death experience because I got lucky. Someone saved me. Something saved me. Something allowed me to have all this wisdom, all this power, all this responsibility. I need to make sure I do something right with it. So do I need to get just a handful of billionaire dads to turn the tide? Is that the best way forward? Do I need to get their sons and daughters to come here to Mexico? Because that's what the Obama family did for their daughters. Their daughters didn't go to schools in the States. I don't know if people know this. They went to schools in Mexico City. Why?
Because they knew
To
what they
raise
were
them with
dealing with.
American values.
I think you're
They-
on something.
so
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're on something.
I'm not sure what's the best way forward here. I don't know if I need to get through their heads, if I need to hire the best marketer on the face of this earth to get through the heads of these billionaire fathers, or do I go after their kids? Because having 2 of those type of dads in my family, my personal experience, they don't listen unless they're about to die, like they themselves had a health scare,
Mhm.
or there was a tragic event in the family, like the passing of grandfather, but in a bad way, the crossing of grandmother, but in a bad way, like not just natural causes. It was really bad. That's the only time that they start to look down from the precipice and go, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. Maybe our country isn't what I thought it was anymore. Maybe I do need to get involved in politics. Maybe I do need to start getting involved in what's going on in the country and stop just making money.
Mhm.
Maybe I do want to pass on a legacy. Okay, what does that legacy look like? I only need a handful of these kinds of dads. And that's why I say I only work with 1% dads. That's all I need. I don't need the 99% dads. I just need a few.
You're right. If you look at the power structures, you're absolutely right.
But they don't want to. That's the issue here. They want a great country, but they're not willing to do what it takes for their family to be great. And the irony is their business is great. And if only they could apply that same effort at home. But God forbid we do that.
That means facing the
God
self.
forbid we admit. Yes. God forbid we look in the mirror, we take our shirt off, and we make an honest assessment. I took my shirt off, I'm looking at myself in the mirror. Am I content? The answer is no.
Mhm.
This is why it's so easy to take the soul of the average American father. They're not even connected to it. I just take it. They don't even know I've taken it. Like, how do you not notice I've taken your soul? How are you so unaware of yourself? How are you so aware at business, yet so unaware of everything else outside of business? How do you do that without breaking down? You do break down. You won't see that on LinkedIn. They will hide it.
Yep.
I'm not going to name names, but I interviewed them. They know who they are if they ever watch this podcast. I interviewed the top 5 LinkedIn top voices in sales. With the exception of one who is female and doesn't have kids, all the others are male and have kids. Every single one of them had a near-death experience, and they didn't pay attention to it. One of them had 2 strokes before the age of 40.
Wow.
Kept going, by the way. Kept going and talks about it like they've overcome it. They haven't overcome anything. They're in hell. What are you doing on LinkedIn? What are you doing on LinkedIn? You don't need the money. You just showed us your W-2 is over $1 million. Your last W-2. What are you doing?
They're turning the mirror away.
They are turning the mirror away. So I was like, cool, well, they're not the ones to go after. Maybe I need to go after billionaires, not millionaires, billionaires. Maybe the billionaires have learned this, right? No, same problem. Okay, so how do I go after them? What speaks to the heart of a billionaire or millionaire father? Their wife? Is it their own mother? Who do I need to go after? Who do I need to talk to? Whose soul do I need to take in their inner circle so that they start to pay attention? That's the question I'm at right now.
Mm-hmm.
How does this look like? So I am set to meet with someone who just sold their company for a little shy of $1 billion. And they're sincerely worried.
Mm-hmm.
Because their kids are not adults yet, and they have no idea where to move to. They don't want to stay in Los Angeles, and they don't want to go back to old country because of the geopolitical issues.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what to do. That is an extremely weird situation. You have all the money that you need and you'll ever need and your kids will ever need, and you don't know what to do with it. You don't know where to even take your family.
Have them
That's
come to
why
buyout.
Sorry?
Said have them come there.
No. And that's why I thought maybe the billionaires would understand, because you only know money isn't everything after you've made a lot of it. I'm not talking about 5 figures. You need to make 6 figures. You need to have seen 6 figures in your bank account to know money is not everything. It's the only way that I have seen, per my experiences, per the people that I've interviewed, and per my clients, and per my family members, the wealthy ones that have families. Not a single one of them has learned a different way.
Wow.
They check off that box and they keep going. So who doesn't keep going? Who are the ones that learn? Like I said, the ones that have had a tragic experience, or the ones who just died and their families learned. You don't see the LinkedIn obituary for those dads. A LinkedIn top sales voice dies. The mother. She's a mother. He's a father. We will forget next month. The family won't. And so this is the current state of our country. And the parents don't see it until they really leave it. Not Cabo, not Cancun. Really leave it.
Correct.
And now I understand why the parents don't do the escape first, why they want their kids to do it first. They know what's coming. They know the pipeline. They know what it looks like. They know what the end of the pipeline is going to look like too. And it's going to get ugly before it gets beautiful. They've already seen enough ugliness. They don't want more ugliness. But that's what it's going to take. Like I said with the money, you need to make enough to finally know it's not enough. But boy, does it hurt to finally make your first $100,000. It's the most painful career experience. But after that, it's not that painful anymore, is it? You're like, wait, I made 6 figures. It's in my bank account. I can do this. What else? What else is there that I thought I can't do? Can I be a better dad? Can I break generational chains? You start to go from, can I do this, to what else can I do?
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
don't see those conversations in our country, and that's really why I'm not there. And for anyone to say otherwise, oh no, you're just being extreme, Seto.
mm-mm.
Take me seconds to make them break down. Give me 5 minutes in the room with you, with anybody, one-on-one, like a police interrogation, just one-on-one, nothing else. 4 walls, no music, no friends, no phone. You can't leave the room in that 5 minutes. I will take your soul, because you're not connected to it, because that's what the American society has done, and it's very effective. It was done very, very
Deliberately.
calculated, deliberately. And I have to give credit to whoever designed all this, the group of people that designed it. My God, it worked spectacularly. And we saw it during the pandemic. We all turned against one another. Family members turned against one another.
Oh, it was
It worked.
it was phenomenal. And if you were someone who walked a very straight line yourself, but refused to engage in I'm going to call it, for lack of better words, I'm going to call it the fighting over it. I would say, look, your body, your choice, and I would refuse to discuss what I was doing with my family, because the place that we were in was pushing so hard, and I was seeing families just be ripped apart by this thing, and it was just nuts. And it's like, I would see people, it was surreal for me. I'll tell you a brief story. It was surreal for me. I used to have this big puddle outside of the apartment my kids and I used to live in. And when it would rain, the water would be clear, it was clean. And the kids would come out and want to play in it. So if we would come in from errands or whatever it is, warm enough day, my kids would be out there playing in that puddle. And I would see people drive by in cars with the windows up with a mask on in the car. And it was like, it was just surreal for me. And I called up my brother and I said, tell me you didn't drink the crazy water. And he started laughing, and we had a good conversation, but it was like everybody around me was going mad. And I had a friend, after about, 3 or 4 months, 5 months into lockdown, she says, how are you doing with all this? And I said, I think I'm uniquely prepared. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I grew up with 8 and 9 months of winter. And I always say to people, you can only build so many snowmen or snowshoe or ski downhill so long before you're like bored out of your mind, right? So you go in a cabin and you read or something, but it's like, it's very isolated, right? And you learn to just shut everything out.
Very.
Well, when they closed down everything and they started demanding masks and all this other stuff, and even playgrounds closed down, big signs, whatever, I just load up my kids in the car and we go out in the mountains and go for a hike. Like, how hard is that? It's not. And people would look at us like, I just carried on as much as I could, as normal as I could, because I'm like, this is not, to my mind then and still, this wasn't a pandemic.
No.
This was not a pandemic. And, I'll probably catch some heat for that, but it just wasn't.
So for all the reasons that you mentioned, this is why I came to the conclusion that rather than just focusing on dads, overachieving dads, that's just a component of me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't define myself by being a dad at all, actually. It's not even part of my identity. I don't have an identity. I'm not a dad. So freaking much more than that. It's everything else that I do that allows me to be a good parent, to be a good leader.
Mm-hmm.
Or else, aside from that, like, if you told me I have to be a dad for the rest of my life and that's all I have to do, no. And I'm not going to be producing a good son or daughter by doing that, by
Right.
putting all my focus on. Hell
Correct.
no.
That's correct.
I don't want you to be attached to me at all. I don't want you to have attachment anxiety. And every time you're not around me, you're uneasy and you don't know what to do. And no, I want you to stand on your own 2 feet. I don't want you to rely on me. This is what I tell clients or anybody else that I'm helping. I'm not your coach. I'm not your consultant. I'm not your mentor. I'm just a messenger.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't create this wisdom. I'm simply passing it on.
Yep.
The wisdom I was supposed to get in my 70s, 80s, I got it early. I got lucky. That's honestly it. That's all that comes up. I'm living the life I would if I was 70, 80. Andrea, I don't know if you realize this. I'm in a bus.
No, I didn't realize
I'm in
that,
a
but that
bus.
makes me laugh. It's well done.
Yeah, so and my friend and his family used to live in this bus. And I see what it's done to his kids, and I like being around his kids. So that tells me something. And now here's the irony of it. I was heavy into physics at one point.
Mm-hmm.
He was heavy into physics at one point. Actually, he went really far into it. He has a PhD in physics. And so for him to leave the sciences to buy this bus and raise his kids in here until they really got their business going, that's the other key. Invested in family first. And now they have a monopoly over the high quality French baked goods in town. They seriously have a monopoly over it.
Mm-hmm.
How did that happen? Family first. They invested in family first. And this bus was parked next to a beach. So they lived next to the beach for about 10 years.
It sounds lovely.
That does sound lovely. Ask anybody about that. Hey, you want to leave your life and go live in a really nice, at the time it was well done, a really nice, well done, old Bluebird school bus? Oh, and by the way, you don't pay for any utilities. Everything's included, and go do whatever you want to do during the day. Oh, and if you want to drive the bus too, you can go ahead and drive it down. Fully loaded, equipped, all the maintenance done on it. Have at it. These school buses last forever.
Oh, they do. I lived in a school
The
bus as a
Bluebird.
child.
Then you know which one I'm talking about. This is one of those old ones. This one was built in the 60s.
Yeah. They're tough.
So that's why when you said Renaissance man, when you asked me what do I want to refer to myself as, not a dad. No, I'm not here to empower dads, even though my headline and whatnot may make that seem so. I'm here to show this is how to be a modern man without losing your soul, without losing touch with tradition, with culture, with American lifestyle we used to have.
Mm-hmm.
The one that was right, the one that somebody took a bullet for.
Yep.
And that's not just being a dad at all.
Nope.
Being a dad actually becomes a consequence of it. It's not even the primary effort. Primary effort, callousing the body, callousing the mind, callousing the soul. Not walling them, not ignoring them, callousing. You callous your fingers, you can handle anything. You're okay with tough times. When your hands are calloused, so is your mind, so is your heart, and they stay open. That intimidates people because they're like, why are you so openly expressing yourself? Why are you so comfortable being yourself? Why are you so well composed and managed? I'm not used to seeing this. Why are you okay with talking about controversial subjects and you're not getting riled up? You can play with it. Like you were saying, I've dealt with my trauma, so I can play with stuff. I can play with other people's trauma stories or digs into me. Right?
Yeah. Yep. It makes it different when you own your own stuff. And also, I think you're talking into something by being who you are. Do you mind if I take this for a minute?
Sure.
One of the things that I see happen in society is that it's really difficult. People give a lot of lip service to authenticity, right? honesty, authenticity. And I'm calling it lip service for a reason, because when it comes right down to it, it's lip service most of the time. They will be honest until, honest to this, honest to that. If every man, woman started actually honoring who they are, we would have a very, very different country and a very, very different world. But we don't. As a society as a whole, we don't. We don't honor that. And it's interesting because I recently came across some research, and there was a man who put, he did an exercise where he put, he was trying to figure out what the highest frequency, vibrational frequency humans emit was, because he thought it was love.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, authenticity was the highest.
Yep, and authenticity was the highest. And yes, and so that really stuck with me, because I started asking myself questions, because I used to go, well, yeah, love's one of the highest vibrations. But I thought about that, and I thought, you know what? When it comes right down to push comes to shove for me, you push against what I know to be true, I don't budge. I may get mad, I may stand my ground, but I don't budge. In fact, if I really, really have an anchor, I don't even get mad. I just talk about it, right? Or I just do whatever it is
Yeah.
I'm going to do anyway. And so if we had, I think we have a lot of people who are very, very frightened and don't know how to be in their authentic self or be authentic with their children. So there's all these structures and all these rules that actually don't serve us. They're very, very toxic. Instead of just being able to be yourself. I can't even tell you how many times I've been told, well, you should do this and you should do that and blah, 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 blah. I'm not even ad nauseum. I'm like, I tell you what, I'll be me. Let's see where that gets me. Okay.
And it doesn't mean that you remain yourself as is, status quo. Like,
Boom.
I'll be me doesn't mean, oh, I'm just gonna
Stay stuck.
remain as who I am and that's it. Like, no. I'll be me means I'm not gonna try to be you. I'm gonna try to keep learning about who I am and what I need to unlearn.
Right here.
That's what being you is about. So when you hear a child, when you say that to a child, tell them, hey, be yourself. No, you gotta give nuance. What does be yourself mean? Curate the experience. Show what being yourself actually means. The kids don't know what that means. When you say to a kid, be yourself, you're actually telling them, go do whatever the hell you want. That's how they interpret it. So it goes back to what you were saying. Like, if every parent could just realize this, right? And that's why I'm not going after every parent anymore. I'm not even looking to make parents wake up. That's not my responsibility. That's not, quite frankly, it's a complete waste of my time and energy. I'm here to find those few who really have been in my shoes and are maybe one stage ahead of me. I was going to say age, but age actually has nothing to do with it whatsoever. There could be a 28-year-old that is one stage ahead of me, right? How I mentioned to you, I have the wisdom of a 70, 80-year-old that has lived a fruitful life, but also a life with many mistakes, right? I know I'm not the first to go through this. And I know I'm not the only one realizing that impact is not making the next nice sweater for you. Impact is not selling you the next tech stack. Impact is not putting a wearable medical device on you. No.
Nope.
Impact comes from human beings like this.
Yep. And it comes from
whether or not we like to admit.
Whether or not what?
Oh yeah, whether or not we like to admit it.
Yep.
It's like ignoring that a car needs gas. No, I don't want to fuel gas. Well, okay, but if you don't want to try to make an impact yourself, to make one in life, you don't honor how you work. You're a social animal. You don't honor that social aspect of you. That's like saying, I'm not going to put gas in my car. Okay, eventually it's not going to start.
Yep.
You're not going in.
Absolutely.
And that's where we're at a point where nobody wants to fill their gas tank.
And I don't know
so
if
that's why our country's stalled.
That's why what?
I was saying that's why our country has stalled. Have you noticed that we haven't had any serious technological advancements in like the last 50 years? How long ago was it that we went on the moon? How long ago was it that we sequenced the human genome? How long ago was it that we had CRISPR technology? What happened?
Mm-hmm.
We were told once we sequence the human genome, oh, cancers, autoimmune disorders, we'll
It's
never have
complete.
it again.
It's complete bunk.
What happened, guys? What happened to technology? I thought we were doing better. We haven't had a major breakthrough in science, specifically with quantum physics, in the last 40 years. People will argue this. Oh, but we've done this and that. No,
It's not new.
no. We're simply regaining the momentum that we once had in the 70s.
Yep.
In the early 80s. If anybody remembers the name Carl Sagan,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Cosmos, or I should say, I think it was back then called Nova, where he would explain fundamentals of physics in very colloquial, very layman language. He'd use simple things like bikes in Italy, and he'd show a biker, and he'd say, this is the centripetal acceleration. Instead of saying you what centripetal acceleration is, I'm going to show you. And I'm going to show you how to manipulate it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have those guys. We don't have anyone like that right now. I'll ask you a very simple question. If you want to learn about physics, who do you go to? Who's your number one source for physics right now?
Boy, I'm the wrong person to ask that. I wouldn't know.
That's what I mean. We don't have any thought leaders in physics anymore.
I don't feel like we
Our
do in
current
that
thought
or
leader-
quantums or quantum physics or even neurology, because of everything I've learned, things that have completely changed people in my sphere's whole life for the better and fixed problems that I was told by the system and professionals in that system wouldn't change, are changed and are healed. I learned those things from people who were in the 30s, 40s, 60s, 50s, 70s, 80s. It's not, none of it's new material. None of it.
Nothing. We're just rehashing things. And then we're forgetting them again, and we're rehashing them. And that's why history continues to repeat itself. That's why genocides continue to occur. 1915 Armenian genocide carried out by the Ottoman Turks was funded by Jews. And then when the Holocaust came, and Hitler was trying to convince, I think I may be using the incorrect term, parliament members or cabinet members, when he was trying to convince his near and dear leadership, like how are we going to convince German people? How are we going to convince the German leaders to do this, to carry this out? And he said, who after all remembers the Armenian genocide? And they're like, he's right. Everybody's forgotten about it. We can do this. It'll just keep happening.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the optimist in me just wants to say, I'm glad I got to live in the United States when it was absolutely incredible. I'm glad I got to learn what it feels like to want to fight for freedom. But the first time I ever actually felt freedom, living abroad. I never felt freedom in the United States. And that is a very weird thing to say because I'm born and raised in California. This isn't a California issue.
Oh, it's a United States issue.
Yes. And I never felt free. I thought I did. I really, really thought I did, Andrea. I really did. And I lived the American lifestyle, the California surfer lifestyle. Had a 1969 Ford Ranchero, had a 1967 Ford Mustang, had a 1973 Ford Mustang. I loved that lifestyle. I loved going to classic car meets at Bob's Big Boy, the old classic 50s diners, 40s diners.
Yep.
I loved that American life. I loved seeing veterans pull up.
It's all right.
Sorry, I miss my America.
No, you don't ever apologize for that.
And I'm not trying to be pessimistic. It's just is.
No, but you're
I
speaking
didn't
the
want-
truth.
I am, but truth. The fire of truth burns you when you have lies in you. And so the near-death experience was my fault. It was nobody else's, and it was because I was ignoring the current state of America.
Yeah. Yep.
That's why I got burned. I got burned by the fire of truth because I kept lying about the health of America.
Yep.
We're beyond sick. We're beyond terminal illness. We can turn all of it back. Oh my God, I can't believe we've allowed it to erode this much.
Right. Yeah.
I can't believe I like the old war veterans that I used to hear about when I was a kid. They used to say things like that. Our country is going to hell in a handbasket, is
Yep.
what they used to say.
Yes.
I'll never forget that saying.
Yep.
Because they all said it. I get it now. And it hurts too damn much. Because they told me, they warned us, Andrea. They told us this is coming.
Yep.
And I remained naive. I thought, let me work within the machine called the government. Let me stop hating the machine called the government. We the people, are part of this government. It'd be like me saying I hate the United States. Let me work within this government. Let me change things from within. We already have everything set in place. We just need the right leadership. I know what we need to do. Let me lead by example. And just maybe the right leaders will pay attention. I can't believe how naive I was. And that's why I kind of lost my emotional shit a few moments ago, because they took my America.
Yep.
That's my country. Yes, I'm 100% Armenian, but I'm also 100% American. That's what makes me love America so much. I know what it's like to lose land.
Yep.
I've never lived in Armenia because we lost it. The country's still there. We were spread across the world because of the genocide. My parents didn't grow up in Armenia.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they had to immigrate after a civil war in the Mediterranean and Middle East. That's how I was born in LA. Genocide and a war led me to being born in LA. You bet I love America. You bet I'm going to fight for it, because there is nowhere else to escape after that. There is no other America to escape to.
Yep. It's
So rather than keep ranting about it, I'm only looking for these types of people. Whether or not they're fathers, I don't care anymore. Looking for the people who have really been through the fire, that fire of truth I was telling you about, and got burned so bad, they're like, I am never letting that happen again.
mm-hmm.
You have to kill me to stop me. Not talk. Kind of people who really walk that.
Yep.
I need to find them real fast. Okay? And I'm not doing it fast enough.
I hear you.
Speaking with people at BC, the founder of our startup company, because we have an alternate payment solution, and we will repay.
You've frozen. You still there?
Higher for breast milk, BC, because of the startup nature of the company. We're talking about ex-generals, military generals, people you've heard about and seen on TV that are like, I can't believe I had to lie so much just keep my job.
Mm-hmm.
But if I didn't lie, they would put someone absolutely horrible in my place. We are beyond ready for change. We're not ready to give our lives. We're ready to burn everything down because we can't believe how bad it's got. There is no fixing this. it must all burn. That's what they tell me. Now, when they say that doesn't mean that we have to burn every single city physically. No. But they are saying states must take back power from the federal government. That's what they mean by burn. Burning
Yes.
that bridge, state and federal government. That's what they all talk about. This is not just in this industry that we're trying to get into in transportation, in urban development, housing development, in sustainability, and all that other fun stuff. This is everybody. These are people working in food. These are people in medicine. These are people that tried to get to work for the FDA, but they didn't toe the line.
Mm-hmm.
Pharma. They didn't toe the line over that industry, over that vertical in that industry. They all want change. And when I asked them, one question I asked you, what's the best way to do this? Should we go after the billionaire fathers, billionaire mothers of America, of the world? Because they love America. You'd be surprised to hear how many very wealthy people love America. You'd be surprised to hear Saudi, UAE, love America. Where do you think they got their money? We basically built Dubai. So they love us. I'm not saying love our government, but boy, do they love our money.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked them that same question. We go after the billionaires. Do we go after the kids?
I think you're freezing up on me again, Sarah. I'll give it a second.
They said unfortunate reason to spread conspiracy theories. So there you go. They said it straight. They said it's now or never. They said it's now, or it's going to be burning where cities burn, not the bridge between state and federal government. Cities, people's homes.
Yep.
They said you've never seen a public school on fire before. So we don't want to get there. We're not the minority, Andrea. But the part that I need to impress upon most people is it's okay if you feel like you're not smart enough, wise enough, that impact. Find the people that you think they are. Bend over backwards to help them.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised to see your life, actually. You'd be surprised to see you make more money. I didn't work at NASA without any degrees. It was my first real job because I was genius. I got in there because I found the best leaders. I volunteered for all these campaigns. Governor, school board, city council, state assembly, mayor, treasurer. I don't think there's any government position, political position, that I haven't volunteered on the campaign for. I got to rub shoulders with these people and their kids from a very young age.
So we need some, yeah, we need some leaders to step forward.
And they all are looking for that leader. We are those leaders. Stop looking for the leader.
This
Leader
sounds like
is
what I
in
said.
your zip code. That one person is in your damn zip code. You actually have seen them in your life before, not on TV, in person. You have ran into them. You may not even know them on like their last name. You may not even have their phone number, email, not even know where they work, but you've met them before, at least once in your life. They are in your city. There's a leader in every single one of these cities. We remain quiet for a reason. We play dumb for a reason. I'm not wearing a suit and tie right now inside the French patisserie, which is very beautiful, for a reason. I don't want people to know how wise I am. I don't want people to know to have eyes on me, because truth and impactful intent is dangerous right now. It puts you at risk. So you be wise. Stay under the radar. And when the time comes, you come out. And that time is coming.
But this
So,
begs,
enough waiting for leaders.
enough waiting for leaders. I caught that. But this begs the question. You're on my podcast and I haven't uploaded it. Exactly how quiet are you wanting this?
Oh, let's go all the way. It doesn't matter. The reason why it doesn't matter is because I'm not like doing a PSA, right? I'm not taking this podcast and giving it to, let's say, someone like Luke Matthews that has 100,000 followers. I'm not giving it to Simon Sinek, who has 4 million plus, I think it's actually 6 million followers on LinkedIn, right? For him to blast it out and they go, oh, who's this guy? No. There's a reason why I don't become Simon Sinek. There's a reason why I don't become all these other gurus as much as I can. And I probably actually do a better job than most of them. That's not my ego talking. I know I can. But that's not me.
Yes.
That's too many eyes. And unless you're willing to lie, unless you're willing to mince facts and truth, it is very dangerous to have that many eyes on you.
Yep.
There's a reason why underdogs stay underground. There's a reason why they say underdog, not above ground, not above dog, not high up dog. You don't notice the underdog. You
Right.
notice the one who's the jock, the one with the attention. Don't be noticed. Stop caring if somebody sees your six pack. Stop caring about validation from others, whether or not you've done good enough. That starts to reveal you. You start to expose yourself when you do that. Do it for you. Do it for the shoulders you're standing on. They see you. They for sure see you. Shoulders you're standing on watch every single move. Those are the people you want validation from. The more you do that, the more you don't seek that external validation. And I know this has been said a billion times as a cliche saying, the more it just starts to come to you. I've never planned on living near the coast, having kind of summer as winter. I never planned on being this healthy either. And yet here I am. So to think that I had to wait for a leader, I'd probably still be working for the government. I probably would have taken the coronavirus shots.
Yeah.
And I'd probably be complaining about why my heart hurts.
Lots of people doing that.
Probably be infertile too, because that's something else I found out about the spike protein.
Makes you infertile.
Spike protein which is not conspiracy anymore, unfortunately.
That is unfortunate, but I'm not surprised.
Likewise.
There's too much. There was too hard of a push.
I'd say, you know what? Given how much we just covered on this episode, I think we should take concisely look at the main points we spoke about. Whichever one of those points spoke more to you, I think those are the points we should focus on next time.
Okay. That's going to be hard. Everything you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, hold on a second.